One of the other people out there in the world of English language teaching that I've been most influenced by over recent years is a guy called Richard Caldwell, who some of you may have heard of. He did a wonderful book called Phonology for Listening, and he has an iPad app called Cool Speech, which is a really lovely little site, I think. And, it's a shame he hasn't had more investment in it to make it more suitable to different kinds of devices. One of the things that I really like about him is he really challenged me and made me rethink a lot of the way I'd been trained to think about what happens when we listen and to think about pronunciation. If, like me, you've done a CELTA or a DELTA or maybe even an MA, you've probably read books about pronunciation, about listening, that are written very much from a sort of traditional ELT pedagogical point of view. And you learn about things like elision and assimilation and linking and intrusive y and weak forms and all that kind of thing. And maybe you've even done pronunciation exercises or awareness raising exercises where students work on those kinds of things. What's lovely about Richard Caldwell, and he provides a lot of real data from lectures and conversations and radio programs and the like to back his points up, is he basically says all of that's rubbish, that actually when you listen to real natural speed speech, it's such a blur of sound and it's so difficult to decipher unless you actually recognise the language that's already being said. In which case, what then happens is your brain kind of fills in all the gaps that your ears aren't able to hear. And I think there's a lot of truth in this. I mean, if you just take a sentence like, "It has been ages, hasn't it?" The kind of thing that you might say when you run into an old friend at a bus stop. I mean, actually, in normal speed spoken English, you're just as likely to say something like, "It's been ages, isn't it?" Yeah? It sounds like, spin ages, spin ages, spin ages, isn't it? It has been ages, hasn't it? And unless you know that often when people meet each other and haven't seen each other for a long time, they say things like, "It's been ages, hasn't it?" It's very, very difficult for you to hear, "It's been ages, isn't it?" And to hear that on a kind of bottom-up level and to put that together and to make meaning from it. And what Caldwell sort of argues is that basically you already know the whole and you know the context, and that allows you to be able to decode the stream of sound coming towards you in that particular kind of context. And this is true for so many things that we say in our day-to-day speech. "It's been ages, isn't it? What you been up to?" Yeah, what have you been up to? What you been up to? It's really, really difficult to hear that, and that doesn't match the way in which we traditionally think about pronunciation and think about listening. And as a course book writer, I think part of the problem is the fact that we tend to think of pronunciation sections in books as essentially being something geared towards students' productive output, that when there's a pronunciation section, that the reason it's there is to basically encourage students to produce English in a particular kind of way. And obviously, if that's what you're doing, coursebook publishers and teachers often like it if there's some kind of focus. What is it exactly we're helping our students to pronounce in this section? My own feeling is that we'd be much better off if we had... I'm not saying that's a bad idea, by the way. I'm not saying I don't think we should do pronunciation. I'm not saying it's not useful for students to practice doing those things. It obviously is. But I think by focusing too much on the productive end of pronunciation, we're perhaps missing a trick, and that maybe what we should be doing is just doing little slots more often of simply allowing students to see language written down, language that they know, language that they've learned and studied and sort of recognise, and to get them used to how that might hear under a range of how that might sound, how they might hear that under a range of different situations, different accents, different background noise, different speed of speech maybe, and to maybe do some more work on simply listening intensively to short little bursts of sound as a receptive, understanding-based kind of activity. there you go. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching.